All right. Well, welcome everyone and good afternoon. Um, I'm Gina Jan and I wanted to welcome to you this is the second time that we're doing this iNaturalist Home Explorers training. And it was made possible by our presenting partner, EcoChallenge.org. And our presenter is Michael Dawson, the Conservation Education Liaison at the St. Louis Zoo. So thanks for joining us. And after a quick word from our Zoom host, Lacey Cagle, Director of Learning with EcoChallenge.org, Michael will walk us through the wonders of citizen science and iNaturalist. And at any time during the presentation, please feel free to type in your questions in the Q&A chat function that's down at the bottom of your screen. Also, you can leave us comments in the other chat box as well. And what we'll do is once Michael has finished his presentation, we will go through the questions from the Q&A chat and direct those to Michael. So thanks again, and take it away, Lacey.
Thanks, Gina. We're really glad to be able to host this. And for those of you who are joining for the first time, the first webinar went spectacularly. It was really great. And so I'm glad that we get to do this again with Michael, basically because the recording didn't work very well, but it also gave everyone who didn't get to come for the first webinar an opportunity to get to ask Michael questions as he goes through this process. So I just wanted to let you all know that we have an Earth Day Eco Challenge that is happening right now. It started on April 1st and it goes through April 30th. And it's an online virtual event where you can decide what actions you want to take that are better for yourself, better for the planet, better for your community, and actually check in each day, every day of the challenge, to be able to say if you're completing those actions, to see your impact add up in real time, and to see the impact of your entire team and everyone the thousands of people who are involved in the Eco Challenge around the world. And so we have a St. Louis Goes Green team that is put together by the USGBC Missouri Gateway chapter and 1STL and Earth Day 365. And I don't know if I think that would be it. Is there another organization participating too? I think it might just be those three. But anyway, we have like 80 something people on the team. We're actually number 12 of 700 and something different teams who are participating. And it's really cool to be able to take action, see your impact add up in real time, and share resources and encouragement with each other. So we recommend, if you are not on that team, to come join us at Earth Day Eco Challenge. And our team name is, sorry, I'm going to go through all these, is St. Louis Goes Green with an exclamation point, exactly like that. So please come join us for that team, or if your organization has their own team, or if you still want to start a team, you can. But it's a great way to be able to do stuff when most of our in-person events have been canceled for Earth Day. It's still a great way to celebrate and also observe and take action for the Earth. So just that little plug, and then I will turn it over to Michael. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and Michael can share his.
All righty. Well, thank you all, and I'll jump right in here. So give me 1 second here. Can everybody hear me? Thumbs up or? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So I'm going to jump in here. There we go. All right. So I'm going to go through a little bit. This will be kind of an introduction to iNaturalist. And iNaturalist is a pretty neat program. We'll go through it, and there's other things you could utilize the program for. And there's different things you can do on the program, but this will be more of an introduction, at least how to get started, and what you would need to know to upload observations. So a little bit about who I am. I do work at the St. Louis Zoo, and I've had the pretty neat opportunity to have a very interesting job. I am an educator at the St. Louis Zoo. Typically, I work with different people in the animal division department and work on a lot of different conservation projects, but I'm also the Frog Watch chapter coordinator. So I run one of the citizen science projects out of the zoo where we train individuals to go out and monitor sites and look at and kind of get at a health of the populations of frogs and toads around the St. Louis region. And one of those things I've come across was iNaturalist was a neat platform that was really neat when I first found it. It came out about 2008. I found it, I think, around 2010 and started adding observations. And why it's kind of neat, it was actually a grad student project out of UC Berkeley, where there was about 3 students working on it as a master's project. And it evolved from that into a really neat platform. And now the California Academy of Science has picked up as one of the sponsors. And it's really turned into something, I think, pretty unique. But it is a citizen science platform. And so when you look at it, there's a lot of neat parts to it. There's a lot of social aspects to it. Obviously, there's a lot of data collection to it. And it also has a web feature based, and also you can use cell phones. And so we're going to get into that and how you can collect data, what you can do with that data. But I first wanted to kind of jump into, since I put the term citizen science out there, some people have heard that term and some people have not heard that term. So I thought I'd jump into what is citizen science. And I actually teach right now a course at Webster University about citizen science. And it's a good question because there's a lot of definitions going on out there. And these are just simple definitions. You can look around on the internet. There's all kinds of descriptions of what it is. And the term is a newer one, and it keeps evolving and changing. Right now, one of the terms I don't even think is out here is called community science. And so what I wanted to do is just give a little bit of background what it is when you hear that term. So one of the biggest concepts you hear a lot is crowdsourcing. And crowdsourcing is a big part of citizen science. It's not citizen science, but you utilize this. And to give you an idea of what that is, Facebook is a good example. Every time you hit a thumbs up or a like, I mean, that's using crowdsourcing or polling. And it's a way for people to collect large, vast amounts of data that one person couldn't do at one time. And so when you think about collecting biological data observations or something like that, crowdsourcing becomes very useful depending on what you're asking somebody to do. And this is a good project to collect that kind of data. Another term, and I mentioned community, a lot of different projects may start community-based. This is just a little snapshot from a particular project around North County. This is up in the Florissant area. And if you're not familiar with Coldwater Creek, this is just a project that somebody went out actually using Facebook and using crowdsourcing and was actually reaching out to the people they grew up with in their neighborhoods to see what kind of cancers they had. And it turns out that there definitely were a lot of cancers when you started mapping them out, unusual cancers and clusters and stuff like that. And that brought in actually EPA and scientists to start looking at that data. And this one was, in essence, more community-based. That's what drove it. And then they brought in scientists to come in and study it. Sometimes you might have heard the term BioBlitz. We've had quite a few. Every 2 years, we do one in Forest Park. Shaw Nature Preserve is another place. The Academy of Science, we offer another BioBlitz. And these are more like a biological snapshot, usually in a 24-hour period or a 48-hour period, to do like a biological inventory. And so they bring in people like me as enthusiasts with frogs and toads, to people at the zoo that are maybe curators and keepers, or they might bring in MDC staff and all kinds of different people's backgrounds that come out and help collect data on a particular geographical area during a certain time. And it is a type of a citizen science project. It's a snapshot. What you notice is you definitely bring together a lot of times students, families, and other people that are interested in wildlife. Another thing, a term that sometimes flows around when you hear citizen science, is public participation. And this is what's a little bit different about this form is more formal. And so you have a collaboration between researchers and volunteers, but they usually have typically a very formalized goal. They usually have learning objectives, and so not just data, but they may have an educational objective as well, and very standard protocols. And this is a picture of actually a project I was working on measuring rock turtles, which is kind of neat. And so the way I look at it, there's 2 things that come together when you talk about citizen science, which is a sponsoring organization. So somebody that has some type of goal, and they usually provide hopefully some type of training and protocols and analyze the data and hopefully eventually put it back out there and publish the data. But then you're looking for volunteers. And so you have those 2 different groups of people that are working together for usually a common goal or some kind of shared goal to collect a bigger picture. And that's what iNaturalist does, a platform that people can build projects on. And so we'll jump right in then. What is iNaturalist and how do you?
Michael.
Yes.
Sorry. For some reason, the audio is kind of a little bit jumbling and cutting out here and there. I don't know if other people are noticing that, but I think Lacey, I don't know if there's a way to check your audio real quick.
Sure. Hold on 1 second.
It's either your audio or your internet connection. I'm not sure which.
I'm going to stop sharing just for a second and share again. Hold on. Let me try this. Thank you for catching that. Okay, hopefully this will be a little bit better. So let's see, can everybody still hear me?
That sounds better to me.
Does that sound better, Lacey?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you for catching that. Hopefully that fixed it. I'm using, I checked something that allowed you to use your computer audio. I'm not sorry, computer audio, the sound from my computer. So hopefully we didn't mess the beginning up, but we're going to jump into iNaturalist here a little bit more in depth. So the question is, an iNaturalist, what is an observation? And that's a very good point. And so one of the things that makes an observation an iNaturalist is anything you saw about an organism. And so one of the things that includes, of course, is fungus, anything that was living and or living at one time. Scat could be observations. And so typically what you need, though, is either a photo or an audio recording to upload, and you need something that's tagged with a GPS coordinate to become useful, so it can be put on a map, as well as time it was shot. So the date and time, the location, and then some kind of media that comes with it of an organism is considered an observation. So one of the things I wanted to go over, just to make it a little bit easier, if you happen to want to use iNaturalist, what I'd recommend is to make an account. There's an app to download, but I think it's easier, I think, to start with if you can get access to go online through a laptop or something like that and set up your account. And then when you download the app, you just log in using your credentials. And so what I thought we would do is actually jump to a website here and actually show you what it looks like. So I'm going to actually go ahead and share my website here. So you hopefully should now be able to see, this is my account, Naturalist. And so logging in is pretty easy. All you would need to do to log in is just you can log in through a Facebook account, a Google account, or you can just put an email address in and go that route. That's typically the way that I create an account. And you have a password. And when you log in, it looks something like this. And it's made to be very social media oriented in the fact that you have a ribbon across the top that has different things you can look into. It has a home page, so very much like Facebook. These are things that either I'm following or things they think I want to follow, so new observations that popped up, and you can go in and help identify it. You can set this page up however you would like it to be set up. And you can obviously, who you're following, so you could go through, and these are people you could follow. And if you happen to like certain taxa or something like that, certain types of plants or animals, you could follow individuals that's what they specialize in. So you could stylize it to however you'd want. You do have a profile, and so the profile tells you in a snapshot, and you can create your own picture and image, just like Facebook, and it tells you how many observations you have and how many species you've identified. So it kind of gives you a running tab of things that you want other people to see. And then you also have a tab with your observations. And so this would be all of your observations. So these are all the things that I've taken a picture of, and a little snapshot of the map over here kind of shows you that almost all observations typically have been in St. Louis. And you can zoom in and look at all of them. Obviously, I've been to Michigan and took some observations way up there. But you can zoom in and kind of see all the different ones, or you can click on them individual-wise. And on the right, it kind of gives you an idea of ID-wise. There's classifications of IDs. And so, for example, this one is research grade, which means more than 2 people have agreed with my identification. So you have a total of 3 identification agreements, and it becomes a research grade. You can look down here. This is an audio that I put up here, and it says it needs an ID. It may not be able to ever become research grade if nobody can agree on it, or it's not a very good audio. So it kind of gives you an idea of your observations, where they are. A casual grade sometimes will list it over here on the right, and that tells you that your observation either is missing maybe a date, time, or a picture or something like that, so it can never become a research grade. But what I want to do is jump in and show you guys how to add an observation. So you can do it from a couple of places. You can do it from here. You can go back to where we were a minute ago. There's several places you can find the button that just says add observation. So we're going to go ahead and add an observation. When you add an observation, this page will pop up. And if you're online, and I'll show you what it looks like if you happen to have a cell phone, but when you're online, you get a couple of choices. So you can import options, but we're going to go choose a file. What I'm going to do here is you could also connect your telephone. So one of the things that some people do is they'll take a lot of photos, and you can connect your telephone with your charger cord into the USB port and pull from there. You can download your photos from Google Photos or something like that. I've already set this up just for ease today. Just take a look. So these are pictures that I downloaded from my Google account and to throw in here just for today's exercise. But to give you an idea, we're going to choose one. So if you have a photo, you're going to click on it, drops it in here, and what it creates is a card. If you had multiple photos, you can continually hit the add button over here and you'll have little cards created, and then you can condense them down. So if you took like 5 photos of the same plant, you can condense them into one observation card. But one of the things you want to do is you want to actually see if you can help identify this. And so because I had the GPS set up on my telephone, my pictures are stamped with time, date, and the GPS, the location already. If not, I'll show you what you would do if you don't have that set up. But let's go ahead and we look at this photo. One of the first things you want to do is, which is kind of neat, we're going to see if we can get an idea. If you click in this box or this box, it automatically pulls up and it uses a program that was created for this project that helps you identify it based on the digital image in pixels. And if you take a look, the first thing it's going to tell you, the best of its ability, is what family group or genus it thinks it came in. So if you couldn't figure out anywhere past that, you can at least say this is a trillium, and I may not know what kind of trillium. It also usually gives you about 10 of the best things that are similar to it. Usually the one on top would be the one most likely that it would be. Based on its observations that have already been put into the program. And if you look at them, you can kind of, if you wanted to view it, you could do this and jump over here, take a look at it, and see if you can see if it looks like it. You could read about it. You can look over here and see, oh, this month a lot of people have seen this around the area that I'm in. So you can kind of get some ideas. You could read about it. There's lots of different views in there. If that's what you think it is, what you would do, and this is, by the way, a prairie trillium, you'd click on it. And now it auto fills that name in there. The last thing you would have to do if you want to write a description, you could type a few things in here. You can always go back and edit later. But I wanted to show you this feature, which I think is a very useful feature, which is you can make the location public, obscure, or private. And so if it happens to be, let's just say in your yard, you may not want people to know that it's there, or for whatever reason, maybe it's an endangered species. You can definitely do private, which means only you could see it. If it's something that you want people to know about, but you don't want them to know the exact location, you could hit obscure. And what it does is it'll put a dot on a map, but it blows it up out quite a bit. So you might be able to tell it's in this town, but not necessarily where. So you have a couple locations, or a couple options, I'm sorry, of those things. If you know that it was something you planted or something like that, you might want to put in captivated or cultivated. Some of the other things you can do, you can tag it. And so you could put tags of something you want to remember later, like a trillium near my house. So you can make up your own tags. If you think there's an observation that you're ready to go, all you got to do is go ahead up here on the right where it says submit one observation, and you hit submit. And it pops up here. And right now, the first thing you'll see is it says it needs an observation. And so somebody's going to see this pop up, and somebody's going to jump on here from somewhere around the country or locally and help you identify this. And if not, other people will jump on later on. You keep checking back to see if somebody agrees with your observation and your ID of it. Kind of give you an idea what it's like online. But let's go ahead and we're going to jump right back to my presentation. So that's what you need to do online. If you're using a mobile device, and this is a pretty example. This was actually from my yard. This is I don't know if anybody recognizes this plant. It's a Dutchman's britches. Dutchman's britches, I think that's what it's called. But you'll snap a photo on using your telephone, and I did this through the app itself. And so what happens is when you're going to take a photo, what'll happen is you get a couple of choices. This is an Android, but it's very similar to an iPhone. You'll have the option of uploading an observation either by taking a photo, choosing a photo. So if you already took the photo earlier, you could just choose this and bring it up. You have a sound recording option. So you have a couple different things you could do. This particular one, we chose to take a photo of the item. Just like online, you're going to get a couple choices. and if it pulled up and it time stamped it, put the location in there. So one of the things you could do here now is you click on there, and it's going to autofill what some of those options are. Once again, there's the genus, and down here, of course, is the 10 different choices if you scroll down. One of the neatest things on the iPhone and on the Android is you'll see this little symbol right here. So if you happen to click here, I don't know why you can't do this online yet, but it's a compare button. And so what happens is now you can compare between all the choices they give you with your own photo. So if you hit the compare button, you can go through a couple different menus, but you get, here's your photo, and then here's the item. And you can continually scroll through the different photos and compare to see if you can figure out the actual or ID of the observation. And if you find one that you think it is, just like online, you click OK, and all you have to do now is upload it, and you now have an observation on there. Now, there are some do's and don'ts they recommend for iNaturalist, and they do recommend, please take test photos. There's nothing wrong with putting the word test in there and then go back when you have time and delete it. And this way it helps people not spend time trying to identify it. Definitely take photos of weeds. Weeds sometimes tell us where invasive species are. So pictures of honeysuckle, I mean, most of us may know what it is, but it does tell us where it is. And there's maybe other weeds you're not sure of if they're native or not, and this will help you identify non-native weeds, but it also tells us where some of those plants may be. And if you do know something's been cultivated or planted, even if it's native, it's good to at least flag it as a cultivated or captive plant. And that helps us not collect photos of things that may not be wild. Some of the don'ts they recommend: don't take pictures of house pets and plants and things. We don't need pictures of those things. Don't photograph faces. There's a lot of privacy rules that you break in laws. Typically, I've seen when people do that, there is an auto feature occasionally. If you try to take a picture of somebody's photo, it'll come up and show you a standardized stock photo. And I can't remember what it's of. It might be Darwin or something like that. And then they also don't use other people's photos. The reason why some people may say, I couldn't get a good photo, so I'm going to borrow a photo from the internet and throw it up there. Your observation may be true, but your photo is not, because you may not have rights to use that photo. It doesn't mean you can't use your own photos that you've taken in the past. If you knew where they were taken, then you can upload those and do your best to approximate about where they would be. We do want to point out there is some important data collection safety tips. Based on what's going on now, we do want people out there collecting data, but you need to do it safely. So one of the things we recommend is that you collect data from around your house and apartment and neighborhoods if you can, and that's a good place to start. Typically, people that are right now in their houses and not going out for safety reasons. There's a picture of Eshy. He's a lot older now. He's 17, but this picture of me and my son out looking for slugs, actually, in our old house. One of the things we do recommend, if you are able to go farther out, check and review some of the local health guidelines for your area. And they do change quite a bit, typically lately by week. So make sure that if you're going to a park, it is open, it's safe to do so. And if you do go there, just follow the rules that have been put out in groups of 10 or fewer. Make sure you're not in large groups, because we don't want to encourage people to go out and collect data in large groups, because that puts people at risk. And make sure if you do go out, you do try to stay at least 6 feet apart. And if you need to, of course, wear a mask if you happen to see a lot of people around, and wash your hands after your visit. Now, one of the things that comes up is what happens to that data. People do collect their own data for their own uses, but there are a lot of observations in there that are there for a purpose. And so there are projects built into it, and you can join a project and follow a project. If you want to start your own project, you have to have so many observations under your belt. So if you're first starting, after you get a certain amount of observations, you will have the opportunity if you wanted to create your own project. There's a couple kinds of project, at least 2 types, and one's called a collection project. It's easy to be collections of anything, biodiversity or amphibians or frogs, or geographical area. And then an umbrella project is a group of collections. So umbrella project could be all the amphibian projects in the United States. And so they're more of an umbrella pulling all these projects together. And so you could create any of these or join these projects. Your data automatically, unless you say it's private, could become part of these projects. If your data gets put up and it fits into the filters of the projects, for example, if you took a frog picture and somebody has an amphibian project within your geographical area, and you fit the parameters of their project, your observation automatically will become part of somebody else's project unless you designate it as private. Just to point out a couple local projects, this is one that I'm working on iNaturalist, and it's called Turtle Road Watch. And we created this actually pretty early on when iNaturalist started. But what we are looking for is observations about where turtles have interactions with roads. And so one of the things that's shown us is some of the different species that have popped up around here and where they happen to cross roads more often. And the goal of this one is to identify some what we call hot moments and hot times to start with. And so where turtles cross the roads the most and what time of year. And our eventual goal is to have enough data to work with other groups, whether it be IDOT or MoDOT, and actually see if we could do something. Certain species are a little harder than others. We're looking for species in areas where maybe there's turtles that nest on one side, live on the other. Maybe we could do underpasses, or maybe it's signs about a certain time of year to watch out for box turtles, which typically come out May through October. And so we're collecting data, and eventually we'll move forward after we get enough data. But this is one project that we're using iNaturalist for. Oops, sorry. And the other one we'd like to highlight is this one, the City Nature Challenge. And so iNaturalist came out a couple of years ago to get cities to actually see how much biodiversity data you could collect in a time, almost like a bio blitz over about a 4-day period. It started with 2 cities and expanded the next year, I think, with 5, and then it went to 20, and then it went national and global. So last year it was a global, the first year they did global, and it was really neat to see people all around the world collecting data around their cities at the same time period. Now I was a little jealous because looking at observations from other places in the world, South Africa, and I don't remember which city was participating, but they had pictures of whales off the coast, which I was jealous. Since we live in St. Louis, we don't have whales. But it was pretty neat to see how much biodiversity people could collect in a short period of time in our area. I think, if I remember right, we came in 17th across the country. This is the website. If you go there now, this is a static photo, but there's a ticker right now. You can see it's coming close. So next week, it starts on the 24th. We'll be out collecting data for this particular project. So if you're interested, check it out and check back. There'll be a lot more links and news about this particular event as we get into next week. Now this year, the competition is no longer a true competition because of what's going on, and we just want people to get outside and collect data and use iNaturalist. And even after this project, you go on and continue to collect data. There's a lot of projects that are looking for additional data sets in different areas. And so if you check out those projects, you'll definitely find ones that you may be interested in, whether it might be insects or ants or all kinds of different things, whether frogs or toads or turtles. There's usually some type of project out there that somebody might find an interest in. So I'm going to stop now and see if we have any questions here.
Yeah, so feel free to type any questions you might have into the chat or Q&A chat function, or if you would like to unmute yourself and ask Mike directly, go for that as well.
Yep. Is that me? No. Okay.
So Mike, I know like the last time we did this, there was a question about what's the difference between Seek and iNaturalist? I think
Sure.
that was a good.
It is a good question. So Seek is a project that iNaturalist created, at least the founders of iNaturalist, and it's made mainly for younger children and families. And the difference is they typically have missions. And so in a mission, they may give you a handful of plants and animals, depending on the mission, to look for. And it's usually time-based. For example, month, your mission are these plants or these animals. And so it's almost like a scavenger hunt type where you go out and you're collecting data, and you also get badges. And so as you collect certain ones and you participate in complete certain missions, you start building up basically electronic badges. And so it's like a competition.
Awesome.
Looks
Okay,
like
well,
Eileen may have a question. She raised her hand.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just a second here. Like,
Oh, we may have lost Eileen. I don't
Uh-oh.
see her on there anymore. While we're waiting for Eileen to either reconnect or unmute herself, it looks like Bob has a question. Bob asked, are there any special qualifications needed to be an identifier?
There are not. We are going to have an ID session coming up. It'll be on, let's see, the following Tuesday. I think it's the 27th. So it's the week after City Nature Challenge. You do not. It is neat to go in there, and I'd recommend going in and watching some of the people that specialize in taxa. It is neat to reach out to those people and talk to them because they will respond back. They can instant message you. You can follow different people, but there is no qualifications to be an ID expert, if you want to call it that. What will happen is, even if you're incorrect, there's usually enough people that they'll disagree. And what I would recommend is not to get upset if somebody disagrees, and because people with taxon love to disagree and fight over what it is. And sometimes based on certain pictures, a lot of times it'll end up that you can't go past the, let's just say, the genus. Nobody can agree on the species, which is okay. I mean, there's a lot of species that, you know, even with a book and the live animal in your hand, you won't go anywhere past the genus level on certain ones unless you have the animal pinned or something like that in a museum.
I think we've got Eileen back now.
Oh, excellent.
I don't know how to. I'm getting an echo in my phone. I need to learn how to download the iNaturalist from a computer to my Android smartphone. And it doesn't, I couldn't find the app on my phone.
Okay. And if you have an Android, what you would need to do is go to, what is it? Google, not Google, I'm sorry, the place. Yeah, Play Store, and then type in iNaturalist. So if you go in that app that says Place, a little icon says Play Store, it's got a little triangle colors on it.
And
Click
put
on
iNaturalist.
Yeah, and you type, once you get there, you would go to the search menu, wherever you see a search button. There's a top, and then you type in iNaturalist and you would download it. It's a free program.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
so Mike, I was thinking about this the other day, and I think somebody had asked about, you know, it's encouraged to take pictures of like the different, you know, weeds that might be growing in your backyard because you get all kinds of interesting data from whatever species are out there. But if you have like a certain flower that's kind of popping up all over the place, should you really just be entering that one time? Is there like value in finding like certain flowers maybe, or plants that you have a lot of them?
Sure. My opinion would be in a certain size area, I wouldn't take 1,000 pictures of the same plant. But if you have one, you know, I don't know, 100 feet away, and you're interested in collecting data about how often you see them and where you see them, if they're all over the neighborhood or a park, there's nothing wrong with taking multiple photos. But I would agree, if you see 50 in one little area, I wouldn't take 50 photos. I would be objective and try to pull back. Similar to listening to frog calls. I mean, if you have a pond that has certain frogs calling, you're pretty good that you know that that frog species is there. But if you go to, you know, 1,000 feet away and there's another pond with different frogs, then I think that warrants that it would be nice to know that the same frog species is in the other pond. So I would use that type of mentality to decide when you'll take a photo and when not. A good example, in my neighborhood, we have a little retention pond, a little walk area, and we found Trillium around it. We took one photo of the trillium. And there's multiple, trilliums in there, but that gives us an idea there's trillium there around that area. But I'm not going to photograph all of the different trilliums. But I have photographed every single flowering plant that I could find around there. It gives us an idea of what's there.
Great, thank you. Okay. Well, I don't know if anybody else, kind of your last opportunity to ask Mike a question on this webinar today. But while we're waiting, I'm just gonna say thank you again for doing this a second time, Michael. We really appreciate it. Fascinating stuff, and I love using iNaturalist personally. It's really a lot of fun, and I've been learning a lot in my own backyard, so that's kind of cool as well. And thank you so much to Lacey and to EcoChallenge.org for making this webinar possible. Really, really grateful for that. So, and just so everybody knows, we do have another webinar coming up, and it's going to be about building resilience in the food system during and after COVID-19, and that is going to be on April 28th at 3:45 p.m. So please check our Facebook page, 1STL, to find out more information about that, or you can check us out at 1stl.org. And yeah, thanks again.
Tina, it looks like Allison may have a question.
Oh, okay.
Oh, shoot.
Hello?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I just tried to upload a photo. So I did it from my yard. I used a previous photo.
Okay.
So I went into activity and it says no updates yet, says stay tuned. But if I hit me, it shows the bluebird that I posted. So that means I've loaded it up successfully.
So under your observations, you see it?
So if I like press the camera.
Let me see here. So you've gone into iNaturalist. Give me 1 second. Are you on your cell phone right now?
Yes,
Okay.
A4 Volk is my username.
Okay, give me 1 second. And that is something you could do also if you happen to share that with somebody that can follow you. I'm going to jump on iNaturalist. Let's see. All right.
I just want to see if I've done it right before I
Sure.
go and.
No, I'm glad you asked. This is a good way to do it. All righty. Now it's a little harder to follow people on the cell phone because my eyesight's getting no good being on the computer so much lately. So let's see here.
A, the number 4, and then last name Volk.
Okay. Oh, let me, I'm gonna jump on the online here. Okay.
While Michael's looking for that, we've got a slide up there just reminding you of those 2 opportunities that are happening right now or in the next week: the City Nature Challenge, April 24th through 27th, and Earth Eco Challenge, April 1st through 30th. Our team is St. Louis Goes Green, and the organization I forgot to mention earlier is Earthway Center is also promoting this team.
Can you tell me your handle again one more time? I'm online real quick.
A, the number 4,
Okay.
and then Volk.
Well,
V as in Victor, O-L-K.
okay, let me see if this finds it. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to view your observations, and let's see, you have 1 observation. So
Yes,
that does
it just
say,
loaded it up.
yep, so it's on there. So that's good. So I'm going to click on it. It is unknown and it's a bluebird. So what I'm going to do is click on your observation. And if you want to see it, I can, if you can share, I can show your observation online for everybody.
Let's see.
I mean, I can share it here and everybody
You can share it because I don't know how to do. There's this share button. I don't know how to do it onto your screen because I got 2 different things going.
Right. Would it be okay, Lacey, if I share real quick the screen? Do I have that option? Let's see. Give me 1 second. We'll jump in here. Okay. And share. There we go. So this should be your observation right here.
Yes.
So if you take a look, so it's been put up here. The reason why right now it says location private. And so if you, which is fine, but if you don't share your location and make it public, then it cannot become research grade, which is fine. But it, which is right. But no, what it does mean is other people will come along and try to identify it, but it may be, that's why it says it needs ID. But I can come along here, and if I scroll down here, I can come over here and I can actually say what I think it is. So where it says for me, suggestion identification,
Yeah.
come along in here and I'm going to put bluebird as well.
Okay.
And that'll help your observation move along. Whoop. Bluebirds, there we go, eastern bluebird.
So you have to do your location is public, which then is the problematic if it's in your yard.
That is correct, which is fine. It's still going to be on this program, but it will. I don't believe it can reach research grade without that.
Okay. Well,
The
I
other
guess
thing
if
you
I
could
find
use-
something very unique that's not supposed to be here, I would use public.
That's correct. If you want to do that, or you can make it obscure. That's the other option as far as location. You can be obscure, which means it'll show it's maybe in your neighborhood area,
Okay.
but nobody's going to know exactly where it is.
All right, I can do that.
So I put eastern bluebird as my suggestion. And so right now, I think one more person needs to come along. And if I think as long as you change your location, if one more person comes along to obscure and somebody comes along here and says bluebird, it'll become a research grade observation.
Okay. Let's see if I can go